Now, not too long ago, a trailer for a game called CS Legacy was released. Now, CS Legacy seems to be aimed at more old school players since it borrows the mechanics from Counter-Strike 1.6. But let's be honest, how many of you have actually played Counter-Strike 1.6 or remember the mechanics of 1.6 perfectly? So in this video, I'm going to be going over all the mechanical changes between Counter-Strike 1.6 and CS2, so that you can see what CS Legacy is really going to be like. Going back and forth from game to game, you'll see how much the movement mechanics have actually changed. And I'm not just talking about the little crouch pop here that you can do silent running with. For example, in Counter-Strike 2, when you jump and land, you continue to keep momentum. However, in Counter-Strike 1.6, when you jump and land, it slows you down to walking speed. And it requires you to accelerate back up to running speed, which in itself is slower than it is in Counter-Strike 2. As you can see while I'm strafing here, it takes longer to accelerate and decelerate in Counter-Strike 1.6. As you can see, during the same amount of running time, you don't get anywhere near as much speed. In fact, it takes you quite a bit longer to get to max speed. Now, while the max speed is the same, the acceleration and deceleration values are just much slower in 1.6. Also, you'll notice that you do seem shorter in Counter-Strike 1.6, and that's because you aim out of the chest instead of out of the face. But it seems like you still aim from the head in CS Legacy. Alright, so let's move on to movement with the guns. Now, as you know, you slow down quite a bit when you scope in with an AWP in CS2, and you can crouch and move around and still peek stuff. Now, this is very different in Counter-Strike 1.6, as when you scope in, you do still lose movement speed, but not quite as much. But while you're faster when you're running around scoped in, if you crouch, it's a different story. Moving while crouched and scoped in with an AWP is the slowest thing you'll ever see. It is completely ineffective. So if you plan to crouch, there's definitely better ways than slowly peeking out with it. Now, a lot of the prices in the buy menu are very different as well. For example, the kit is $200. You also have to buy ammo, and you buy it by the clip. The submachine guns are definitely not as accurate as the MP9, but they do still have very good run and gun potential. And with that, let's talk about the Scout. The Scout's movement speed is absolutely insane. It's actually faster than the knife run speed in CS 1.6. But it's not accurate jumping like it is in Counter-Strike 2, and it's also slower than it is in Counter-Strike 2 when you scope in. It also costs more in Counter-Strike 1.6. Now, one of the biggest differences between the guns in Counter-Strike 1.6 and Counter-Strike 2 is that the guns in Counter-Strike 1.6 have random recoil patterns. I believe every gun has 7 different recoil patterns it can call upon. This makes spraying people and spray transfers far less effective. I think these AK sprays right here are a really good example. As you can see, one goes over to the right at the beginning and the other one actually goes to the left at the beginning. The spray pattern is almost completely mirrored. Now, another big change is that you can spam through walls, or rather spam through textures. One texture will cut your damage in half, and it doesn't matter how thick the wall is as long as it's one texture. Meanwhile, an AWP can shoot through 2 textures no problem, because the same rules apply. Now, there are a couple of extras that you can buy, like for example, you can buy night vision and you can buy a shield. Shields, however, were not allowed in competitive play. Alright, so let's go through all the rifles you have. You have the AWP, you have the auto sniper, you have the AUG, you have the M4A1, you have the Scout, and you have the FAMAS. As for submachine guns, you have the TMP, which is the cheapest, the MP5, the and the P90. And honestly, I think all of the rifles and submachine guns are pretty well balanced based on price. But the pistols are total freaking crap. Luckily, you can buy every pistol on both sides. But in my opinion, the USP is by far the best, decent damage, and the most accurate. Seriously, how did we ever win eco rounds? The Glock is terrible, its triple burst is terrible, the 228 is terrible. Everything is just so inaccurate, even the first bullet with the Deagle is inaccurate. It makes me wonder how those Deagle headshots even happened in the CS Legacy trailer. Alright, in all fairness, even in the trailer it actually takes 2 shots with the Deagle to hit that headshot. So it looks like they really are carrying over all the variables from 1.6. Alright, let's move over to the grenades. First of all, you got the smoke grenade, and when it puffs out, it's actually a little thinner than I remembered. Which is kind of cool, because if you're far away from the smoke, you can't really see through it, but if you're in it, you can see right through it. Now also, nades are these big floaty things that can go through 1 pixel spaces. For example, watch as I line this up to be a space that's far too small for the nade to actually go through, but it still does. On top of that, nades can go through walls and damage people on the other side of them. Now, there are no Molotovs or decoy grenades, but you do have flashbangs. Now, they don't ring in your ears like they do in other versions of Counter-Strike, but they do blind you really well if you look towards them. And even if you look away from them and they're to your side but still slightly in front, they'll still blind you really well. Now if you turn completely away, you will not get fully blind. But overall, flashbangs seem a little bit less forgiving than they are in Counter-Strike 2. Now let's talk about the money system. It is completely different than it is in CS2. For one, your kill reward is always $300 no matter what gun you kill with. Basically, the way I remember playing it is if you lose pistol round, you have 2 save rounds, and then after that, if you lose the next gun round, you have another save round. Generally, overall, more save rounds, which is why I think they eventually switched from MR13 to MR16 for Counter-Strike 1.6. Now, while it is harder to get a stable economy going with this money system, it's a lot easier to predict what the other team will be doing, whether they're going to be buying or saving. And with that, that's all I have for this video. I know I, for one, am very excited about CS Legacy and can't wait to play it. Let me know in the comments below if you're as excited as I am to play it.